Do you all have a chair? Have you elected a
We
chair
have not done that yet.
for the budget committee?
You guys have a quorum, so you guys can actually do your voting and
Yeah,
like.
I was gonna get to that, but I wanna thank my esteemed colleague to my right for filling in all the blanks. I would have got to it, I promise. Who was my next?
As their secretary.
Your fingers soaking. You wanna do that? So, who else is on the budget committee?
Cash and Kyle.
Kyle.
Anybody hear from them if they were
I
coming?
don't think Kyle will be here.
You don't think so?
No.
Out
I
of
can
town?
guarantee Kyle won't be here.
Where is he?
He's across the street with his sister.
Bad?
I'd rather not go into it if we're being broadcast.
I know the family my whole life.
Yeah.
Should I be going across the street, say
No,
hello?
no,
Okay.
no,
All right.
thank you.
All right, make a nomination for the chair.
Well, I
You know how to do this, Shelley. Rock and roll, baby.
No, I'm new, I'm like sitting back.
Don't nominate.
I'm gonna do it.
No, nominate me.
Well, if everybody's comfortable with a
Yeah.
newbie being the chair, I'll be the chair, but I don't have any knowledge of ever having.
Can I- Before you go there, is, Kay, what's his first name?
Nathan,
Nathan, is he coming this year? Is he on the board?
He's not on the board.
He resigned.
he resigned.
Okay. Go ahead.
So if no one wants to do it, I'll do it, but I just want to do it with total disclosure that this is my first time ever in local government and on a budget committee. But I'm not a dumbass.
Should I write that down?
Whatever you'd like to.
Wait a minute, is that in the notes?
You can quote me directly.
No, we don't
At
have
any
those
point in
things in the
time.
notes.
I nominate Harry Symes.
Simon,
Simon.
like simple.
Simon.
Second.
All in favor?
Oppose?
Do you need a vice chair? Do they need one?
Yeah, in case the chair's not there.
I nominate Shelley as vice chair.
You can't, you're not in there.
I just want to get this thing snapping along
Wrong
here,
one.
okay? So somebody nominate a vice
I
chair.
nominate Shelley Lowell as vice chair.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Very good. All right, John, take over. Let's rock and roll.
Well, first,
Waiting for your peeps.
What's that?
I said, then we're still waiting for your peeps.
We're gonna carry on.
I know.
the overall budget is reduced by a couple $100,000
Nice.
as of today. We did lower the capital reserve money by $55,000. That was one of the things that came out of our initial, budget meeting with the selectmen. We don't have any wage increases in here. I did mention that cost of living this year is 1.6%, which I normally would put into all the employees, but I would certainly recommend the cost of living increase. But I think we have we could have a real problem with wages for some of the department heads. We lost 2 employees next week. Tricia's got a new job and Kara has a new job.
Oh, no kidding.
They're both gonna be awful hard to replace.
Wow.
And I asked Kara, I said, if we offered you more money, would you reconsider? She said it'd have to be an awful lot of money, so apparently Mike Coop offered her quite a increase in pay. All year I've had the fire chief, the police chief, Rebecca, they all, they're all, below 50,000 or right around 50,000, which doesn't go very far in range. So I think you should think about that, and we'll, I gotta come up with a recommendation for what I think, but I do think they all need to have more money in their budget. If we're gonna hire people,
John, how do our salaries for administrative staff compare to Maine on an average?
On an average, we're low, but you have to consider the various sizes of communities. Every town is so different. So for instance, we have no full-time firemen except for our fire chief. Town of Mexico has a volunteer fire chief, but 3 full-time people that man the fire station 24/7.
Mhm.
So they rotate, you know, and like 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off. So, police chief, for a town our size, I guess he's a little bit less than other towns, but it's hard to find towns our size that have a police department even,
Right.
or a full-time fire department.
Right.
I think it needs to be considered, you know, for what, you know, and I did attempt to do something last year. I did put $15,000 in the budget for, like in the general reserve account,
Mhm.
the hopes of having by now completed a wage and salary range for each position. And it's just not enough time. We're so busy right now with just the things we're doing with the road projects and there's a lot going on for a little town here, you know.
So that just leaves TJ and Rebecca at the helm when you walk in that door.
No, that's not correct.
Starting next week. Yeah.
No, we have other non-union department heads.
No, I don't, no, I mean,
Here.
the ladies,
Running the
my
office, same.
favorite reference is every time I walk in,
Oh,
I'm
whose
greeted
face
by
you'll see? Yes, it's.
consummate professionals that have always satisfied me, which is, you know, it's just such a pleasure dealing with all the ladies
Oh,
in the capacity.
They're excellent.
And I mean, it's not like there's a waiting line when I come in, so it's not like everyone's gonna be totally overwhelmed, though there might be a longer wait time occasionally because we're down 2 key people.
Well, Tricia's leaving on the 3rd,
Okay.
which is next week, and Kara expressed initially interest in her position, and would have paid her a little more money, but Mike Coop come in there and offered her a job that day, before we could even give her an offer. And she took it. She used to work there years ago, I guess.
Yes,
So now she's.
When was the last salary survey?
I'm sorry again?
When was the last salary survey?
It was
Year
done-
before last, right?
Done by Anna Lee.
No, well, yeah, but she did.
I mean, the MMA salary
Well,
survey, not the individual
No,
one for
they're
here.
doing it right now, the
Yeah.
MMA one. So we don't have a lot of data, but the data we do have, it's like, you know, where do we put Rangeley's being, you know, it's like 1,200 people. So you've got towns like Southwest Harbor and, you know, they're some pretty wealthy towns, so Rangeley's,
Yeah.
you know, a pretty wealthy town.
Greenville, I think.
Yeah, if you compare those positions to those towns, you know, some of them range between, you know, like ranging 1,200 people, and Southwest Harbor might be 3,400. So
They always
I
kept
think-
us with Vinyl Haven too. I think for the school system, for us to be considered an island and not have to be part of a district, they put us with Vinyl Haven.
Okay, well, we are part of the district, but.
Anthony, the documentation that we last saw, the comparison, my estimation only, I don't know how Shelley feels about it, but my estimation, it was not apples to apples. The towns that she picked, like Shelley just said, they're not the same kind of islands as we are.
They don't have the same responsibilities.
that-
Not the
They
same
don't have the
responsibilities,
same
or-
number of
Anna Lee,
people under
I
them.
wouldn't
It's
trust
hard.
one of her surveys anyway.
Yeah, so,
Sorry.
does it need to be done again? Probably. We don't have that currently this
We,
minute.
you know, the towns like Ogunquit she had in there, you can't
Oh my
compare
God.
Ogunquit to anywhere.
Yeah, right.
No.
You know, they're so unique.
I think she was doing size though,
They're
trying to compare
smaller
the
than us
size.
population-wise, but they're one of the most wealthy
Wealthy.
communities in town, and they're all business properties,
Right.
you know.
We don't have those businesses to, we have second homeowners. we don't have
Exactly.
industry.
They have hotels down that
Right.
whole stretch, it's a
Yeah.
very land-wise too, it's
Yeah,
not a lot of land, not a lot of roads, not a lot of anything down there, so how do you compare that? You know, it's all some on population.
You know, talking about Agunquit, when I read that name, I have a friend of mine who's in real estate sales in the area and sells a lot of property in Agunquit. Their average sale was $1.5 million. We get a couple of those up here, but I mean, you know,
and you compare Carabasset Valley, but you can't really compare Carabasset because the mountain pays for their PD and their fire department.
and their
Except the
ambulance.
chiefs and the ambulance.
So comparative study has to be done with a little bit more knowledge base of what we have here
Right.
than what was current. My feeling again, what was done, the one that I read.
Yeah, it's pretty complicated, and we're in a complicated, even more complicated position being the
Right.
size population we have. And then if you look at value, there aren't a whole lot of towns with a value of $500 million. You know, that equates to Rumford, they're valued at $500 million because of that paper mill, and, you know, it's all, 75% of Rumford's value is commercial or industrial.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, because
here
their houses
you
are
have-
selling for like $50,000.
Huh?
Their houses are selling for $50,000.
I know.
Pretty nice houses.
I know, well, I paid 48.5 for mine, but that was 35 years ago.
Yeah.
What were their titles, or what are their titles, Tricia and Kara?
One is the finance assistant,
That was,
Kara,
That's
his
Kara.
finance
Kara.
assistant.
and Tricia was the town clerk,
okay.
which her responsibilities are elections. She was overseeing the cemetery.
A lot of hers are dictated by state statute too. That position, a lot of the duties are dictated by state law. There isn't a whole lot you can do to change that position.
You would know more than I do about the town clerk, because you used to be the town clerk.
Yep.
But the town clerk, yeah, it's all state regulated, and there's trainings involved every year, every updates, whatever the legislature changes, you know. But on a lot of different, you know, there's election law, there's hunting licenses, fishing licenses, she does marriage licenses, death licenses, birth certificates, those are all regulated through the state, and they, you know, they have to be exact,
Right.
those things. It's quite a important position.
Okay. Are we able to see a job description?
Yeah,
So
we-
that if in our
we-
circles, we're able to, you know,
Yeah,
one
we
thing leads
just,
to another, and
we just advertise it, it's online on town's website.
it's on the website?
You got Kara's info, so we got them both in there now,
Okay, great.
and that gives a highlight of the duties that are involved.
So do you think that it would be worthwhile looking into the salary stuff whereas are we at the max yet for minimum wage?
Oh, yeah.
It's at
Well,
$12 now?
Yeah, the only thing that,
So we're not gonna be able to see any of that final figures of what everybody else is doing, only if they report through MMA to see where those increases, how they did handle those increases. Because I think that's what a lot of businesses are doing now, personal and private, is they're looking at those and they're also looking at the whole package, with the health insurance and
yeah,
retirements and stuff like that, so. I don't know if we should put them up to a certain amount, but then reassess sooner rather than later coming up. Does that make sense?
yeah, that's why I bring it up tonight, I think.
Yeah.
We seriously need to talk about this, because we could lose other employees too.
Now,
That would
did
be a
you
tragedy.
take those funds last year, or
They're still in the reserve.
they're still in the reserve?
Yeah.
So those could actually be used for going for, well,
The intent was doing salary range, and then when they did their job evaluations, could
Yeah.
recommend something within the range based on each individual person, so.
When a town employee leaves, is there a formal exit interview conducted?
Cindy mentioned to see if Ann Lee would do an exit interview, but I guess Tricia said neither one of them wanted to be interviewed by
I'm
Ann
interested
Lee.
in doing it. They're not interested in doing it. No.
Well, I mean,
Well, I know my work, no, I don't have a choice, but.
That's right, we didn't have choice, you
Right.
have to.
You
have
It's a
to.
requirement.
Yeah.
To find out
But
if
yeah,
there
it's
are,
totally
if it is
different.
money, if it is, you know, that just gives,
I talked to both of
Management.
them and asked, I mean, if they reconsider,
I think if they were interviewed by somebody else, they might reconsider.
if what?
If they were interviewed by somebody else, they might reconsider.
they would interview with somebody else.
So they might reconsider if they were
normally-
interviewed by somebody else.
An
Other
exit,
than John?
Other than Annalee.
Oh.
Right, Jennifer.
normally an exit interview is not that intimidating. I
It's
mean,
not.
it's just, they just wanna know, like, when I did mine, you know, what can we do better, blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Oh,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
not
Yeah. it's-
anything drastic that
and
I
you
know
don't have
of.
to share anything
less-
you don't wanna share, I mean.
Right, yeah,
it
you
really
just
matter
say
what
what
you
you
want
want
to
to
say.
say.
either, I just
Oh,
don't,
no,
I
they-
don't think they feel as though it will make any difference. That's my feeling.
And it's not, it should be conveyed that it's an exit interview, not to change their minds.
Right,
Mhm.
It's
no,
just
we
for
understand that.
for us to benefit from,
Right.
and I don't know, who's Annalee?
Our HR consultant.
She's the town's
The
consultant
overpaid HR
for
consultant.
personnel issues.
And
But
did
I agree, it should be done by somebody here, not somebody that doesn't know the daily operations
Right.
like somebody else does.
And Rebecca, did I hear you correctly say that they might reconsider if someone other than our HR person conducted it?
Yep.
Well, that then, to me, to my ears, tells me that we've got another problem, potentially.
Mhm.
And that's a big problem,
What would that be?
that you've got town employees that don't feel comfortable talking to their HR manager.
Well, she was around more last year when they were looking for the town manager position and the fire chief, and we haven't seen a lot of her in the last few months, so.
Oh, she just,
She was here, yeah, she's under contract, so much a year, it's like $7,500
She's what?
a year.
What do we
She
pay her
lives
then?
with policies and stuff like that. I think she updated her policy last
Uh-huh.
year, and I don't recall.
So she,
What do we pay her
right, I
currently,
understand
John?
that.
It's like 9,000 a year, I think.
well, the budget's 9, but I think it's 7,500.
And then she gets
And
paid
then-
mileage.
If she gets mileage in the winter, if she has to stay at the Rangeley Inn, she'll bill us for that, so that's why the budget's 9,000. And she's in this second year of a 2-year contract right now.
How much time is left? Just, is
This
it calendar year?
next budget year is,
Oh, okay, so there's 6 months left.
of the first year, and then this is the second year in this
Coming up
budget.
in this
will be the
budget.
In
second-
this next.
This
Oh,
budget
starting in
starts-
July.
Yeah.
This
Oh, so
starts in
there's a-
July,
There's a full year.
so she'll have that second year in the contract.
It's too bad.
And this is the first time that we've dealt with this woman, or we dealt with her?
No,
No.
we dealt with it before that.
Okay.
Yeah,
been
she's
for a
been
while.
under
Okay.
contract for how many years now?
They hired her when Tim Pellerin was the town manager,
Okay.
and it was probably a very savvy move during that tenure. I don't think it's as necessary now, my opinion again, because of the type of town manager that we have now with a lot of experience where Tim was brand spanking new at being a town manager.
Right.
So it was a very good move on their part at that particular juncture. I think we could certainly debate the merits of that position now, but not in this forum.
Okay.
We got like all the job descriptions, she helped with all of those. Yeah, she's actually played a big role in where we are now.
She negotiated the union contract, which starts at.
2, I think she's
third
done
year now,
since
second.
I've been there.
Two times, right?
Twice, yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry? She's done 2, I think.
But is
Yeah.
this the third year coming up in this budget? or the
Yes,
second?
this is the 3rd year. They'll be doing union
So
contracts
this
next.
budget will have the last year of the union contract, they'll have to renegotiate that again next year.
Okay. Have we received any interest since the positions have been advertised?
A little
Not
bit,
much.
not much.
Not much.
They've just gone out because it happened just last week, so, the same week we had first Tricia and then Carrick and then,
How much notice did they give us?
2
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, each one of them exactly 2 weeks.
Okay.
So we were able to bring up Trish's at the last selectmen's meeting, and we'll bring up Kara's at this one, so. Got a letter of resignation for both of them.
While we're talking about employees and salaries and such, I want to make sure that you all understand that we have had a help wanted ad for a town mechanic now, going on 5 months,
At least, yeah.
maybe more, 5 or 6 months, with 0 interest. Just, I mean, they may have had some sniffles, but nothing of any seriousness.
Okay.
Which indicates a number of different things that I'm sure you're all aware of, and I don't need to remind you. Let's hope, for God's sakes, that this does not happen with these 2 positions, because we'll be in a world of hurt for a period of time here. We need to fill them, so we need to recognize that salaries. I say something funny?
No, I said if it's a long time, I'll quit too. I'm kidding.
Oh,
Well, then the person that have people been applying, or they're not applying, the ones that are applying may not have the experience?
as
What is it
a
now?
mechanic's position? Keith gave us a pretty good rundown on where all this stood a meeting or 2 ago. People are, the requirements that we're asking may have to be changed in terms of the job description. One of the key ingredients that they felt was necessary was the ability to do inspections and get a sticker on a vehicle. And that seems to be a problem spot for qualified mechanics who just don't want to take the time to do that test, to be responsible for that. Yeah, i.e., when I was a kid, every garage in town was an inspection station.
Yeah,
Now there's 2. So, and so it's different. So they're talking about changing that. They're also talking about restructuring the job description within the department, and we gave them some suggestions at the meeting. But my point is not the job description. My point is that they're not getting the applicants they thought they would get.
Yeah, pickings are slim.
Right. And they're,
And some people truthfully don't wanna work for the town. That's what I've heard from people that I know are qualified, and I've said, why don't you apply for the job? And they're like, you're crazy, I'm not working for the town.
Which makes no sense, because they have benefits and anyways.
Their benefits aren't everything, sweetie.
Oh, it's a lot.
Benefits aren't everything.
all right, so again, we still have to, my point about bringing this up is that we got to take a hard, fast look as to how we treat salaries and keeping good people that we have. Recognizing that there is a market out there for them, and they don't have to stay here just because Range is a beautiful place to live. So,
Right.
I know it's
But at the
very,
same time, you're dealing with the union, so you gotta be careful.
all of that's understood. And where we're, aspects where we're not union, we have to, clearly make sure, I mean, you'll see, as you read down the synopsis here, there are some wage issues, and we have the fear, and I think it's a real fear, that there's some other people that have families to take care of, and they're being offered positions in other locations, and as much as they want to be here, they need to think about that, and we need to think about how valuable they are, and we want to keep them. All right, go ahead, John.
So just, I'm trying to have a recommendation for you before we've done the process on the wage issue. But at the very least, we're gonna increase everybody's wage by cost of living, which is the 1.6%. Last year, it was 2.8%, we increased the cost by cost of living wage increase.
Do you still, are employee evaluations part of determining increases as well, John?
Yeah, it's a requirement in the personnel
Yeah.
policy, so, yeah. I haven't done it yet, but I should have done it already, but I haven't been able to, so.
You're gonna start from ground zero anyways, other than,
Uh,
you're starting with 2 less people,
yeah,
but you're gonna have to change the, yeah.
and I'm completely satisfied with everybody's job performance there.
Mhm.
We have some real excellent employees. as you said, when you walk in, the girls are so welcoming
Mhm.
and laughing, and I mean, they're wonderful people. Well, they were anyway, you know, now
Right.
you lose two of them, you still have two.
Yeah, so they were.
Yeah, but Rebecca's already threatened to quit. I think we should put an ankle bracelet on her.
Yeah, good one. We'll chain her to the desk or something.
You know, I know that we're here to talk about budget, but Ethna brought something up that, and again, I'm just coming in from the guy from way away in New Jersey. I'm the board president down at New Orleans, and
Oh,
I've just completed my first year, and we had our first annual meeting of the new year on Saturday. And my opening discussion and statement to the board was the culture at New Orleans. Now that place was founded in 1973 or 74 by Billy Gammon, who was a real firebrand. She did an amazing job by preserving that state treasure, and it's really a national treasure. But the culture has to change down there. And I'm not inferring that the culture at the town needs to change, but if someone like Ethna, who's a homie here, is saying that people are walking around saying, I don't want to work for the town, well, no one works for the town. Like, no one works for the state. You work for people.
yeah.
So what I've also learned is that you Mainers, you never put the whole story on the table. Little pieces are parsed out. So, and this, my experience has been with New Orleans. It would help me tremendously, and not here, but you know, if there's something that needs to be said, it's said, because there could be underlying problems, and I'm not inferring that there is, but I listen to what everybody has to say. And you know, if there's an undercurrent and it's not being addressed, okay, we're going to replace Kara, we're going to replace Tricia, and then we're going to find ourselves potentially in the same position if there is another problem at hand that needs to be addressed. So.
You got 2 seconds? Beautiful. Excuse me 1 second.
Bye, Guy.
Hello.
I said bye.
Good.
John, is this meeting, is this 2 hours on budget only tonight, or are we?
Yeah, those selectmen's meetings.
Oh, it's just budget. Okay.
Yeah, up to 2 hours, whatever
Okay.
you guys want.
And just so you guys know for the salaries, Annalee did give the most recent list, and there was a form that I had sent out that John reviewed, and the salaries of these other towns are at least $10,000 more than the positions here. So comparing and looking at, like I had told John, I mean, I think the police chiefs were all 80,000 plus. I mean, that's not realistic jump, I don't think, for the town of Rangeley. I mean, it would be nice, there was a
For two
finance
people.
director that was making 90.
For a sergeant and another patrolman, yeah.
But I'm just saying that
Right.
some of that salary survey, it's like, there's different, it's just sometimes just not a realistic.
Right. It's great data, but it doesn't.
It shows that we are below, but
Right.
Speaking of that, did the school approve their reserve officer?
It's a resource officer,
Did they
not a
approve that?
reserve, it's the chief, it's the school resource officer, and they're allocating $6,000 to.
So they pay
Which is
6,000?
last phone and email.
they pay the town
We haven't
$6,000.
dealt with it yet, we brought it up to the selectmen at the last meeting, and we'll be dealing with it at the next meeting,
When I talked to Sheila, they're not planning on increasing that amount at all.
Hmm?
They're not planning on increasing that amount, they're planning on budgeting 6,000 again next year.
so. Yeah, and that,
And how long are they there for?
No, that's not my,
they expect
it's
10
my
hours, up
husband's
to
not
10 hours a
statute.
week,
What, oh, 10 hours a week?
and that's about what he does now. And the chief wrote up what his duties has been all year as far as being there when the school buses.
Yeah, whatever number you feel is best.
Picking
Yeah.
up the kids and being there at lunchtime and going to sports events, and he does quite a bit,
So is that above and beyond, okay? Or is that just
Selectmen
part of
haven't
his salary?
decided. The selectmen haven't decided yet, I would
Oh.
recommend that that goes on top of his pay, yeah. Steve and I met, and the chief met with the superintendent
Yeah.
and principal, I think.
Follow right along.
So we met for about an hour one day, and went over the things he did. The main thing is they expect, he's already doing about 10 hours a day,
Mhm.
and they expect, you know, not rigidly, but thereabouts, you know, average 10 hours a day.
10 hours a day? No, 10 hours a week.
A week,
Okay.
yeah, 10
I
hours a
gotcha.
day. For $6,000, that's a good deal.
10 hours a week, man. I wouldn't be sending him there if that was the
Sorry.
case a day. Oh,
That's
shoot.
the brain tumors, I think.
Oh.
Well, anyway, we just briefly talked about the school raising the 6,000. Just told them we'll bring it up next week. As to what you wanna do about it.
Good. Good, good.
So, these are some of the changes. A lot of these departments have actually decreased. Like I mentioned earlier, to the tune of a couple $100,000, minus any changes to the salary accounts. HRA was approved a couple of years ago by the selectmen. I don't know if most of you heard the explanation, but HRA is, law allows, well, let's start over again. MMA offered a reduction in their insurance plan with an increase in co-pays and an increase in,
Deductible.
the deductibles. And what that boils down to is the cost of from what we had to what we now have saves the town money. So what they decided to do is there's a third party company that we raise $3,400 for a family insured and $17 for a single. And what that does is the employees get reimbursed for those higher co-pays and higher deductibles up to those limits, and once you reach those limits, then the insurance takes over from it becomes the same policy we always used to have. So by doing that, the town saves money two ways. First, it saves money because the cost of the HRA to the town is less, the cost is less than the savings.
What's HRA stand for?
Health savings account.
Health savings.
Health reimbursement
Yeah,
account.
there it is, thank you. I knew it was right as soon as I said it.
So,
I didn't know that.
So then the other issue is that nobody's gonna use the entire amount. So like in my case, I've used maybe $600 or $800 of that 3,400 that would make me whole if I had a serious, injury above that. Unfortunately for me, I'm going through a lot of treatment, but the VA is paying for that, so I'm fortunate, and we're fortunate because that costs a lot of money. I can't believe the kind of amount of money that stuff costs and the treatments I'm getting. So the second way to save is the town only has to make up what's actually been used during the year. So you don't have to raise that full amount every year. You do that just the first year, which was all raised 2 years ago. And then we just have to raise new money to make up, to bring it back to the 3,400 or the 1,700, depending upon your single or whether you're not, you've got a family
Family,
plan.
right.
Yeah, and then the other issue that we just approved was if an employee can be on a spouse's plan, then we'll let them $2,000 in lieu of us paying over $20,000 for them to stay on our plan. So it's a huge savings for the town.
So they get that $2,000 in the form of what? Is that a,
Cash.
okay, so it's a lump sum payment?
No, it's health reimbursement. It's part of the health reimbursement.
Yeah, they can use it to offset premiums, why don't they submit like a bill, a medical bill showing what they paid in premiums and they
Oh.
get reimbursed for that.
Okay. And we cut a check.
But he's talking about the money you give, like say if my husband had insurance someplace else, the 2,000, we
Is-
have to give you a bill and you pay that.
We go through a company, but yes, kind of like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I did it in Mexico, and it was done in Rockland when I was there, and it saves the town a lot of money, so, I mean, over the years, it adds up. Very unlikely that every town employee is gonna use the maximum amount of that benefit that's, allocated towards their name,
Okay.
policy, so it's a good deal all the way around for the town and the employees, so. That, all of that is being budgeted under the selectmen's account, their budget. So, the town manager's salary, the next one on there, so health insurance for everybody was 7% increase, but dental and vision and income protection, none of those rates change, they remain the same. So it's just the health insurance that went up. And that's typical, they've been doing this for years. And it's based on, use.
I'm just looking at
history.
something else, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The towns with more than 50 employees get assessed based on their own history. The rest of us all get lumped into all towns under 50 popular, 50 employees. So we'll always be in that category. So it's the averages from all the different towns, what they're spending on health insurance. That's what determines the cost increases every year. So, and then the other thing is, I'm committed till December 31st, which is half of the year. And when the town hired me, they had budgeted $100,000 for a town manager. And this budget, I only put in 62,000 is what I'm actually getting paid. For me being here as a town manager, but.
For a full 12-month period.
Yes. So, I'm not sure what's gonna happen if I can even make it till December, with what I've got. I've got cancer in case none of you have known, and I go through treatments.
I didn't know
Every
that.
3 weeks I have another treatment, so. I have my moments, where I'm exhausted, and, so I don't know if I can fulfill the contract till December. If I can't, I'll certainly let the selectmen know, so we can start looking for someone, but I don't know. It's very doubtful I'll be here longer than December 31st.
Okay.
So, in that sense, I'm thinking you might wanna consider putting like 80,000 in there, which would give you a little more, ability to get someone on board that has some experience. And I think that's what they originally thought when Tim was leaving, they put 100,000 in there.
Right.
80 might be a more appropriate number than 64, which is what it would be now. If I was staying, I don't need any more money. I have Social Security and little retirement funds, and, so I don't need more money,
Right.
I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it longer than December next year, if that long. See, I'm hopeful.
We all are.
Mhm.
A lot of people praying for me, and that helps, it really
It
does.
sure does.
So I think you should consider that, and, the next one is assessing, contract services for the assessing services, that was by, what, do we have a 3-year contract on that?
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was a inflation increase each year for 3 years. And, remember the percentage on that?
I only think it's like 500 a year.
Yeah.
I don't recall it.
Well, we have a 3-year contract with the assessors. And they're supposed to do a third of the town each year,
Mhm.
to make sure that everybody's on,
So question back on the increase in that town manager salary, back,
Yeah.
you said 80. Is that gonna affect, because, if I recall, I thought that when the assistant became the assistant town manager, will that change that?
Depends on what the
I'm
board
just wondering, I'm
decides.
asking.
Yeah, depends on what they decide afterwards, or who you get, what kind of qualifications.
Hmm.
Depends on a lot of issues, you know.
Okay.
I mean, right now, I'm here 3 days a week, and
Right.
Tracy fills in quite a bit on the other days. And I never know what days, can't have a regular routine, because they schedule, you know, I can't
Mhm.
help when they schedule, you know, room in the oncology thing
Right.
over at the hospital, so I gotta be flexible enough to be able to go to those treatments.
Is the town manager position, John, typically a 5-day-a-week, full-time?
Yes.
It is,
Mhm.
yeah.
So when initially, you may recall, I was only hired to be an intern after
Right.
Jim left. And I was figuring 3 to 4 weeks, I was really figuring I was gonna get reelected in the legislature. And I didn't, I lost by 100 votes. So.
Oh.
The second time, first time I won by 300, I think. But what happened was 300 less people voted in Rumford than what had voted the year before. So I actually won in Rumford by 12 votes instead of by 600 votes. And I lost in all the Republican areas of my district, Woodstock and Roxbury and Sumner. Probably every household is, you know, except for maybe a handful is Republican, so. They just vote the R or the D, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Bless you.
Selectmen said, make an offer, and I said, well, I was willing to, you know, commit 2 more years to the state, so I'll offer you 2 more years, and they agreed with it. So. Which I'm happy to do it, but at the time, I didn't know I had cancer till March. It was,
What kind of cancer do you have, John?
lung cancer.
I'm gonna call a timeout to that. Let's keep going on this. We'll do that personal stuff later.
Okay.
Carry right on.
Okay, so, major increases in travel and training and Trio software, increase in travel and training due to a new employee, that's in the finance budget. That would include Rebecca and whoever replaces Kara. Planning, increased the compensation due to wanting a part-time person. Well, Tom's been mentioning that for quite a while, and last summer he brought in a fellow, I think he lives in Connecticut, but he's into the code enforcement, and he's gonna plan on moving up here, he's a summer resident. Tom was thinking, boy, it'd be ideal if we could offer him a part-time job to help, because there's so much going on here, it's a lot of work. Tom's put in a lot of time to update all the codes that we have.
Right, plus he's still green, I mean, he's still getting caught
Uh,
up, he's still getting caught up to everything as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, we should have chapter 38 all reorganized and ready for town meeting vote. And he's doing dark sky, he's looking into that, cell tower, sign improvements, the sign ordinance, he's done a lot, awful lot. And on top of that, we have a couple of dangerous buildings, we have a dragged out court case with the snowmobile place up by IGA there. So he's been through an awful lot this year. He does a good job, so, and he's certified now, he got a certification through.
Yeah.
So that's one issue, and I tend to agree, because I see he's always talking about, you know, having no time to do all the things all at once. People that come in, they want a building permit, they want it now, you know, and he's out doing a lot of other things that this year have been more pressing, because we've gone to court, you know, you might see he's cleaned up that Atlanta place, if you've driven by, quite a difference here.
That's an old snowmobile rental place up there?
It was up, going up the hill toward IGA
Right.
on the left.
Oh, yeah, it looks much better.
Oh, yeah, you had all the cans and bottles out there for years. So.
We've actually had 3 of these in process. That's the Lanza property,
Yep,
one over on Mingo Loop and one on the Ball Mountain Road he's been dealing with.
Those are dangerous buildings, those ones that were actually caving in and falling in, so
the buildings themselves are?
Dangerous situations, yes.
Okay.
he's still working on those to tear them down, but it's a long drawn out process to do those right, so that the homeowner doesn't come back and sue us for tearing their property apart.
Right.
Gotta go through, the Lanza one, we went right to court,
Yeah,
let the judge decide, so that was a real mess. And so far, we've got thousands of dollars invested in cleaning that up. We've had the DEP in there, we've had excavate oil that leaked all over the place on the dirt, and we had to excavate it out, haul it off to Norwich Walk, and so far, we've had to pay for all that. And what happens is, when we're all ready to bill him, which we almost are, it's unlikely he's gonna pay it, you know, and so, then what happens is, we'll be able to issue a lien
right.
and record it in the registry, and then, if he doesn't pay it within a reasonable amount of time, then we can foreclose.
Right.
We'll own the property, and then we can sell the property. It'll be like a tax acquired situation.
And that business is no longer operational, correct?
No, no. And
So
if
there's
they
no-
if they ever wanted to reoperate, they'd have to get a new, conditional use permit,
Okay,
and it's unlikely they'd get it.
right.
I think the contractors also need to learn that if there's certain days that he's doing it, then there's certain days doing. Other towns, if they go to build a house in another town, which I know some of the contractors in town have done that, they have to plan accordingly to when that person's gonna be available. They don't have somebody available 5 days a week.
Who's
So,
that?
The other towns for planners,
The plantation.
for building permits and all that other stuff, yeah, they don't have that option.
So what do? They come in here and get a building permit?
I know one guy does it for, I'm trying to think, I think it's, New Vineyard, Phillips, and I think Kingfield. He works for all 3,
Oh.
and maybe Strong too. He's just like 1 day a week,
Yeah.
so you
Okay,
gotta
our,
basically.
Mike's working for all of those?
Huh?
Mike is working for all
I
of those?
believe he's got, yeah. Yeah. Or at least he had before. I can ask him next time I see him in Phillips.
Yeah, Livermore, that's how they do it, they don't have somebody there. Livermore's really small.
They don't have somebody that's there 5 days a week, but.
We've got plumbing inspector that does different towns, they usually do.
Yeah, and New Sharon's part-time too, because he has a full-time job. Yeah.
So does that position no longer get help from MMA and AvCog and all of the other, you're saying something about him drafting the changes to
Yeah.
38, he's not doing most of that work, is he? That's being handled?
We were working right through our attorney's office, and then he suggested we go to ABCOG, and they're helping us out now at a fraction of the hourly charges. So and that's what they do, you know.
Right, so there are other assisting programs that are out there to help him too, though. It's not like
Yeah, we have
there's
to
an
pay.
increase in workload from previous people in that position.
There's an increase in workload, yeah, because of the dangerous buildings, because of the going to court and keeping track of all that. We've got a whole.
And has there been an increase of building permits on top of all of that as
I
well?
don't know exactly how many, but yeah, there's been quite a few building permits this year.
He reported an increase of 10% over a previous quarterly period when he was
In
in
building permits?
building permits, yeah. Had a busy summer. Had a busy summer.
We've got a,
And coming up on quiet season, okay.
Sorry?
And it's not unusual to be busy seasonally in that office and to
Sure.
have plenty of time in other seasons to take care of other stuff.
he's been busy all year, so there's been no let up at all on anything, so. We've got this houseboat issue now that's raised its head. We've got, Mr. Sinnott, who.
That personal property tax? Houseboats?
Not a lot of information out there on houseboats
Right.
on lakes, but they would have to register it as a boat with the state, which I believe they do, but, out of a camp that would be charged property tax. That's one of the problems, you know.
Because it's all state water.
And the state regulates all the water, you know, what happens on the water is regulated completely by the state, so. We have no issues about houseboats, so.
The state doesn't have any issues.
No, so those new issues like that require a lot of research and what other towns are doing. There's a few towns that certainly have houseboats on the coast. You know, they have town piers and things that are, you know, where they can tie up, you know, and marina type places where the people can tie up and pay their rent or whatever. But, that's a major issue we have right now.
That's just one houseboat though, or we have multiple people.
There's two that she's gonna have. She's got one right now, but she wants to have two for next year. And the residents down around the shore, they're not too happy.
They have two, I think she has one and her father has one, right? They already
She
have
has
two.
one where?
They already have two, right?
She used one this year, but she was talking about having another one for next year. As far as I can tell, they didn't both go in this year. It's just the one. You know, and I met with them, and we had our representative, Fran Head, was up here meeting with both the Senate and with the group that are complaining, so, to see what the state might be able to regulate when it comes to houseboats. There's still a long way to go on that one. He's also been working on an overlay district. If you go down the Rumford Road, all the way down the shore there, you've got a lot of the camps are on the water side of the road, but on the other side, when the state took that highway, they took it and split those properties right down the middle.
Right.
But the other side, unless there's a resident gonna build a house over there, they can't have any outbuildings, so they can't build a garage, they can't use the other side for any type of
That's per our ordinance.
issues. That's in the ordinance, so.
Per our ordinance, you have to have a primary structure, but they've allowed it all over town. There's a garage sitting up on Cemetery Hill all by itself with no primary structure.
But that was only on that district because it's shoreland. That's
No,
what that was about.
That piece about you're not supposed to have an outbuilding without a primary structure. That's standard language throughout the ordinance.
I thought it just had to do with that shoreland.
Nope, not just that shoreland. It's everywhere in town.
So anyway, what he's trying to do, and Avcog's helping on that, is to come up with an overlay district for that area, so that all those camps could utilize that
The property across the street.
land that they own across the street. Most of them can't do anything with it, unless they build a,
Another house,
yeah,
right.
so he's working on that. We hope to have something of that ready for June.
But that condition has existed for decades, hasn't it?
Yes.
Oh, ever since the state took over the road.
Wow.
But more people want to have, a place to put their boat, and, place to store things when they're gone for the winter. Also when they're here in the summer. So mostly they can't build garages, and that's what we've had. I got letters from two people that are encouraging this, overlay district so that they can build a outbuilding, a garage.
Is it safe to assume that the majority of their property is on the non-water side of Route 4?
Some of them, sure, some of them are.
17, what he's talking about.
I'm sorry, 7, yeah.
In a-
Yeah,
Boston,
17, yeah.
There's another component to all of those properties down there, and it has to do with the railroads. The railroads created an easement on every single one of those properties, all the way along there, so that should the railroad or the state DOT need to, they can make you move, or they can take. A lot of the buildings, as you see going south towards Rumford on the right-hand side, half of the structure's in the easement.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Half of the structure,
Half of the structure is in the easement.
but that's for the railroad.
Well, DOT now has assumed all of those.
And the railroad is defunct, correct?
Correct, but Department of Transportation has assumed all of those. So they
that's-
still exist,
Right, so that's a long drawn, well, actually, yeah, it's a long drawn out
yeah,
resolution.
but it's been there for quite a long time.
Yeah.
So does Trio's costs just keep going up every year?
What was the question again?
Trio,
It's still less expensive than using,
it is still less
whatever it's called.
the other program they have.
Whatever it's.
Munis? No.
Yes, Munis, that's extremely expensive, so.
So the town office building, they're looking for, they have to replace the computers.
No, that's Civic Plus, that's our website. Is that what you're looking at,
I was looking at the town office building under that category.
Oh, the repair and maintenance line is up for computers. It's an increase.
Is it for computers?
Yeah.
And then the website costs?
Yep.
Is that to upload more information on there? Or is that just the cost for,
That's they emailed me an estimate, and that's what it was. It was higher than last year, but. If you look at town clerk, her increases are basically for the same reason. That is for an employee, for training or whatever.
okay.
That's mostly ballot clerks, I think, her part-time wages are all ballot clerks, I think.
Yeah, but there was an increase in minimum wage, so
Read
that
the
was.
first tabs. All empty. That's the way it's supposed to.
We don't have any price yet on the risk pool at MMA, property and casualty insurance. I imagine they'll be roughly the same as what they are today.
They've always increased, we guesstimated an increase of 10%, and some differences really close to what we actually get
10% for which one?
from year to year. So in
okay.
this year's budget, we're raising what we paid last year, 10%. And that'll
Okay.
put us right close to where we need to be.
So do you think, just looking at what the numbers are now and possibly foreseeing for June, that we're gonna be under or over budget?
I don't foresee any real increase, but you never know. They have a board of directors that oversee all their insurance policies.
Oh, no, I meant overall for our budget.
I don't have to look at it.
Well, we won't know until they actually give us a bill for all these categories.
She's talking about the entire.
For year end for this year. I was thinking for year end this year.
She's
I mean,
not.
the whole
The entire
town
budget?
Yes, the entire budget.
Yep,
About 200,000
200
less than
less.
last year.
for the whole thing at the end.
Yeah.
We still have to look at, right now it's over 200,000, but we still have to look at, well, the county, the school, and capital purchases, there's still some things that we're waiting on for that. As
Yep.
well as the salaries, which obviously salaries will affect your,
Right.
holy cow, what's that? Your FICA, your 457 IPP, so. Okay.
Carry on, John.
Um, Well, fire rescue, wait till we talk to the chief on that one. He's talking about lease purchasing another vehicle. Says increase in debt principal for Ford Motor Company. If he can lease purchase a vehicle, but.
No, that's actually for the vehicle that he, I don't know the names of the vehicles.
You talking about the rescue?
And the rescue that we just purchased.
Not the heavy rescue, because that's paid for in full. It was the one he leased, was it not this past year, I think it was the year before? He still
Year
had
before.
payments on, it was last year he leased it. We still have payments on that, so that's new in budget itself. That's where you're seeing the increase for that, not for what he's requesting this year.
I misunderstood that.
Sorry, that would be under capital.
So, we bought that last year, what did we just pay interest? For the first year?
It's a lease.
Definitely.
I mean, we
But that
paid
was-
the
it
first
was-
lease payment
It was first appropriated in capital purchases.
last year. Police is an overall decrease. Animal control, no increases in that one, maybe minor one. EMS, they decreased their budget by a couple $1,000. That's the ambulance
Mm-hmm.
payment. Fire hydrants, increase of $3,845. Now, I asked Keith, what's that all about, because usually any increases has to be okay by the PUC.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was a 2-year agreement, and they agreed to the first part of it, which was the bulk of it in last year's budget. And 3,800 was in that whole package. I don't recall that. It seems odd to me that second year to come in with an additional $3,845.
That's for new fire hydrants or maintenance or?
Well, the dilemma with fire hydrants is the
We use the water
PUC,
district's water.
they allow
Oh, that's
30,
just, that's a water bill basically?
Yep, he'll tell you right now.
PUC allows 30% of their entire budget for fire hydrants. And maybe that's what that's all about, Keith misunderstood. But anyway, if we reduce the number of hydrants or increase the number of hydrants, it would be irrelevant because it's based on 30% of their overall budget. And the reason they agree with that all over the state is because towns went in and they're like, well, gee, I couldn't feed the whole town with domestic water with 2.5-inch pipe, and I gotta put in 8-inch pipe, and we gotta chlorinate it more, and with more chemical costs or whatever. So they've justified this years ago before the PUC that they're entitled to a flat fee of 30% of their overall budget for hydrants. So every town asks these same questions year after year. Well, can we cut out 3 or 4 hydrants, you know? Well, no, you can't, because
No,
you can,
you
but
got your,
it won't change anything.
right.
It doesn't change the formula, but it does reduce your coverage. So there's no sense in cutting any of the fire hydrants out, because
Oh,
it
yeah,
does
absolutely
nothing
not.
to the,
So
But this is
they-
also a shared expense with the plantations.
Yes,
correct.
yes. Through
The
the,
fire department and these go, is shared to the shared services.
so this plus the overall fire department,
Did they ever do the
Budget
testing
is
on
about
those to make sure
half.
they each work?
what's that?
Do they ever do the testing on each of those to see if they each work?
Yes, they do.
They did?
Ethan could answer that, but I know they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause-
One of them is located directly in front of my wife's shop, which is very comforting for me, assuming somebody gets there in a hurry.
Mhm.
But they do tests, so we see it.
Cause we had trouble with the one when they had the fire up at the condos.
Yep.
That one froze up.
Yeah.
They had to haul it.
Let me just make sure I'm clear about what I'm saying. They do test. Now, do they test in the wintertime? I can't answer that question.
I
So,
think one of the
should
plantations, yeah,
right,
issue with
so
that.
should there be and I don't know what the requirements are for the PUC, but I know that years and years ago, 100 years ago, when I sat here before, in the old room, we wanted to see the documentation of the testing. Now, since then, the water company has gone from Russell to a semi or quasi-municipal entity that it is now, so I don't know what the, I wish Ethan was here to answer that, because he would know. You have any answer to that, John or Tracy, or
No.
what their requirements are? I think it would be kind of stupid to ask them to test those suckers in the wintertime for fear of a working hydrant one day is now frozen because we did it in 18 below zero the day before because we were mandated to. You follow what I'm saying? It doesn't make.
So each one of those hydrants has a valve down below where the water's not freezing. Once we
Correct.
open it and it flows,
Correct.
you turn it off, now you've got water in that void.
Yeah, there's drain outs in it all, but weather is weather.
Yeah.
Denise and I have a very vivid recollection of a fire on Allen Street that had the fire hydrants not been, we're getting off track, so I'm sorry.
Alright, so hydrant, highway department overall decrease mainly because we paid off the front end loader, made the last payment in this current budget. Sewer overall decrease.
So I have a question with the sewer, are we done paying the Laguna this year?
Last year, we made our final payment on one of the bonds, but we still, the other one doesn't get paid off until, I think it's actually in the notes. 2023. The winter spray bond got paid off, the other one, it gets paid off in 2023.
2023.
So if it's 2023 and the other one was paid off last year, are we starting because, are they gonna need a new lagoon?
I tell you what,
Going to need another lagoon? Is that the plan?
So the discussion that we've had in prior years is,
Yeah.
yes, eventually they will need a new lagoon, so he's just putting money in reserve each year,
Okay,
but he's looking at 10+ years from now.
okay, so he's not thinking like you should take the money from the loan that we had prior and putting it, banking it, so basically you're borrowing your own money until, okay.
solid waste overall decrease. Chipping fees are up 3% on the regular municipal solid waste, but the recycling deal we have, it's up to paying $105 a ton to recycle. When we started out, we were receiving money from them.
Right,
Now it's up to $105 a ton. And to
because we do single stream.
single stream, but
But if we
just put
separate it
on-
again, we could probably get more money for going down the hill.
Well, we'd save 105 a ton, right?
What's that?
We would save the 105 a ton if we went back to the way it was.
Oh, yeah, because we'd be making money, but we had last year when this first started, we had an estimate from Archie who said he would take that material and then he could bale it and do whatever and sort it. It wouldn't cost us anything
Right,
except getting it down there. And then he was selling it to the vendors, like I do in Mexico, we sell it.
right,
I mean, I just just had my year-end revenue thing, it was $98,000 we took in. A lot of it's from metal waste. They throw away a lot of washing machines and dryers and refrigerators, you know, it's like 3 times a year. The last check that just came in December was for $25,000 just for that load. And it fills up fast. So we do that, we do cardboard, we do tin cans, we do plastics. But we've been doing it set up that way for years. We got a recycling building that, you know, you drive in a, what do they call them? It's a little loader, what do they call it?
Bobcat.
Bobcat, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we got a grapple bucket on that, and we've got a forklifts on that for load tractor trailer. You know, we haul our own trash, I mean, we've quite a lot, you know, set up, but you couldn't afford to do that here now. You're too small, we got 6 towns involved in the one.
Oh, sure.
Northern Oxford Regional Solid Waste Board.
Have we ever approached the other plantations that have their own? Because they've gotta be feeling the tipping,
Yeah, I don't know
do
what they do.
shared
Yeah.
services.
Yeah, they must be, you know. Of course, most of it, they wait till a container's filled up and then they probably Archie hauls it for them, or,
Right.
you know, they must be doing a similar thing to what we're doing. So we pay so much a trip
Yeah.
and then so much a ton. So the regular solid waste, the Norwich Walk at Waste Management, cost us about $69 a ton. And we're pulling all this single sort to recycle, and that's $105 a ton. That makes no sense. Plus, we're paying transportation to get it down there to Casella.
So what was the impetus to go to single source?
When we first started, we,
China was buying the plastic, I do believe, they stopped.
yeah, China was buying up everything, and everybody was making money. Even
That
us.
glass isn't worth anything.
We were receiving monthly checks when we first started for whatever we did single sort.
Oh, okay.
And then it would go to Portland, and they would separate it out, and probably sell some of it themselves.
Right.
And then send it to China, but China stopped it
Stopped.
a year ago, because it was getting too messy, there was too much garbage mixed in with it. People were being sloppy about it, not us per se, but, you know.
Right.
On the whole, China put an end to it, so.
Okay.
It might come back, it might not, but, you know, it fluctuates all year, you know, the amounts of money you get for whatever the tons are. So we've got a big enough area where we can bale, enough bales of cardboard or plastic or newsprint or whatever, and stack them up outside, and then when we get enough to fill a tractor trailer, we'll get the Bobcat over and get a loading dock and load those trailers, and Maine, I guess, does all the marketing for us. They take their cut, but we get a check for all those. Totaling for the year for all the commodities, like 98, this year 98,000. I've had as much, probably 10 years ago, we had $171,000, and it cost us about $100,000 to pay for the recycling of it. With the labor that we have, the, you know, equipment that we need, the baler, all that stuff.
But recognize too that it's a consolidated effort. It's
Right.
not a single town.
Right, that's 6 towns you said, right?
6 towns, Rumford, Mexico, Roxbury, Byron, Peru, and Dixon.
Wow, okay.
We had that opportunity many moons ago, and not to belabor a historical point, but 2 of the 3 plantations decided that they were going to do it on their own, period. The one that is with us still is Dallas.
Okay.
So we take them, a couple of years ago, we started taking the mills, solid waste from the paper mill. And the law says we have to take residential and commercial, but we don't have to take industrial waste. So we charge them, I figured $95 a ton is what it costs for whole cost of the building, the electricity, the diesel fuel, the equipment reserve accounts, I mean, the labor, we got 4 full-time employees. You know, the benefits, so, you know, you add all that up, the average is like $95 a ton. And that's what we charge the paper mill, so.
Okay.
So would it ever be worth it to reduce the hours, say, at the transfer station in Rangeley, and have, the employees sort some of that stuff? Not necessarily have the dump open? Would that be,
If you-
I don't know, I'm just throwing an idea out there, just to get some more money out of it, where you're paying them to be there anyway. And, I mean, there's other towns that their dump's not open, but 3 days a week, even in Farmington.
You
So-
need it open here in the summertime, I understand.
Yes.
With all the.
And it's honestly with our area, I think that just having the dump open on Sundays for half a day, in the summer is great, because that's usually when everybody's leaving. But it doesn't change for the winter either, so I'm not really sure what people, I mean, granted, you can keep your trash outside because it's frozen,
Yeah.
but there's just that, I'm just throwing it out there.
We're open 5 days a week, 9 hours a day,
Mhm.
and 9 to 5, I'm sorry, 9 to 1 on Saturday, half a day.
Right,
Rumford.
And we rotate the 4 guys that work there so
is
that,
that Rumford or here?
they're in Mexico.
Oh, I thought you meant here,
Yeah,
but which includes Rumford.
right, yeah,
So I'm thinking, they each work 40 hours a week, 4 guys, including the manager, you know, Eric.
right,
Two of them are in the recycling end of it, and 2 of them are in the solid waste loading the trailers and, you know, organizing all that.
I just didn't know if it would be worth doing the recycling thing, like having it closed a couple days during the week.
I wish there was a way for, get your recycled material down to Mexico. I mean, it's going in Norwich, it's already going, Archie's hauling it.
Right,
That, I mean, you know, my board would be willing with, you know, Carthage approached us one year, we were willing to take them in. Andover approached us and they backed out at the last minute. But we were gonna take them in as a full member, we would, you know, just charge them a little extra each year until they paid for their share of the capital equipment, then they would have been a full-fledged member, but now, since then, we've replaced all the equipment, you know. The 4 new trailers, the cost about $90,000 apiece, and,
mm,
so it'd be too expensive for them to come in now. But to bring some recycled material that we could still make money on, you know, we take stuff from Carthage, it's not a lot, but they'll bring their cardboard, they'll bring their,
we're making bracelets out of plastic and everything, man, saving the ocean.
I know, I mean, plastic, that's not a good market. There is some #1 plastic that still pays pretty good,
Yeah,
and there's like 8 different grades of plastic, but some of it isn't worth anything anymore.
like we do so cheap, you drop it, it breaks.
So, I asked Keith why tipping fees were up and transportation's down, but I said, so what's Richard gonna squeeze those loads harder when he loads those trailers or what? Oh, those containers, I don't know. I think he's up back there, maybe he can.
Yeah, he's smiling, I can hear him.
Yeah.
Richard's back there?
Yeah.
Yeah, he records these things. Oh, yeah, I saw him in there earlier. Solid waste, okay, an overall slight decrease in the airport for the regular maintenance.
So, okay, so the overall decrease in the airport, should that be an increase because of the expansion, for the plowing and stuff?
The plowing's out of,
Oh, out of the,
Public works.
highway works.
okay.
And looking at, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, we might wanna talk about that sometime, but, I remember, way back in Eastport, we used to plow the schoolyard,
Yeah,
And I asked the superintendent, so is that a legitimate expense that would generate some additional aid to education? And he said, yeah. So I said, well, the town public works department should be billing you for what it costs us to plow your schoolyard on every storm. So,
right,
yeah, it takes 2 years, but once you start, it's a legitimate expense. So I don't know if that, the same scenario being the airport, but yeah, I would think it's a valid charge. We'd have to pay.
and those
If we
funds
didn't
could come
have-
out of the money that, that the FA,
Well, you know what, we found out since, I don't know if you're aware of it, but you, Cindy said you raised the issue before you left. They decided that since none of that material came from airport property, that we could use the entire amount for other than airport projects.
nice,
Yeah, so there's over $1 million in that fund. That initially 600-something thousand was delegated by them to remain in a fund that would be used only for airport projects. But they apologized and looked into it, had some kind of a meeting down there, and the FAA, and wrote back and said he apologized that they had the wrong interpretation of what
wow,
the law said. So.
that's awesome news.
And I sent him Cindy's email to me, and she had mentioned, I guess, you had brought it up, she told me initially, but she mentioned this didn't come from airport property, it came from
Right.
Chick Hill, so why doesn't the town people in Rangeley have a right to say where that's gonna be
Right,
used for other
Yeah.
town projects, and why do you?
and that was my point, yeah,
And so we checked it out, sure enough,
awesome. Good to hear.
changed their mind.
Good.
So we still gotta, retain enough to do, near future
Right.
airport projects with it, because there's some that need to be done, but, we could certainly use some of it for some of these road projects.
Yeah, so to help alleviate the tax burden on the taxpayers.
Yeah, especially on Loon Lake Road, because that goes from Main Street to the
Yeah, that's
airport.
got a bad taste in my mouth, that Loon Lake Road, but that's
Huh?
all right. I said that Loon Lake Road gives me a bad taste in my mouth, like the state of Maine only paying 5% and they
Yeah.
are supposed to take care of that road.
Well,
I think they need to fork up some money.
Keith and I met with Mark Hume, and the lower part from the road going into the school down to Main Street,
Yeah,
all the culverts, the main big culverts are rusting out, so we asked them, well, I think you should be doing something. So he asked us to put in another MPI grant. So we're expecting the cost of that to be about between $400,000 and $500,000. So Mark Hume said put in an MPI grant request for, 500,000, and then, it would be 250 would be Rangeley's share, and 250 would be the state's share. And then if it come in 400,000, we just neither one of us spend the additional 100,000, so. That's what we plan on doing. We've contacted Darrell to put something together. And that would be a way to help with the bottom half of that, which was never part of the original estimate.
yeah,
So it started at the school road going up to toward the airport, but all that was expected to do on the lower half is just grind it and reshape it and pave it. Nothing to do with the drainage. Well, all the drainage coming down the hill now is gonna be added to that rusty culvert system that goes all the way down to Main Street. That needs to be replaced. And DOP won't simply say, DOT, sure, we'll do it.
first thing
We're
I'll
always $100 million short.
break every 10 minutes,
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
Oh, let's
question on the Parks and Recs. Did we take that money that was, set aside for the equipment at the park?
We got 50,000 we budgeted last year, and we got another 50,000 in the budget this year.
Okay,
That'd be more than enough.
cause
to-
50,000 we were behind because we didn't spend that there before. I mean, I don't know how much more
Well,
room
we
we
didn't
have down
we didn't
there.
have the money to do the complete project, we were 50,000 short.
Oh,
So we raised it in last year's budget, but it's probably most likely gonna be costing more money now, so. We did put another 50,000 in there this year.
okay.
It would be in the recreation reserve, so that could also be used for that, plus we gotta overlay some of the basketball, tennis courts,
Yeah,
some cracks in it that need some attention, and some work on the ball field out here. I mean, those kind of issues could come from that pot of money.
oh, so that comes, the ball field comes from that too?
Part of the
Are they
pot.
talking about doing those drastic ones that they,
The what?
the drastic, that were quite costly for the ball field? Are they planning on those?
I don't know.
They were planning on like leveling it out and then re-layering it. Did they do that last year?
Which one are you talking about?
Oh, right here, this one.
There was a lot of work done there last year, moved the fence, leveled it out, compacted it, and,
He had money in there a few years ago to build dugouts. That's one of the reasons we needed to move the fence.
that's correct.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then and in shifting the fence back so the concession stand can get behind it safely,
Yep,
they had to move out the actual playing field, the infield, if you will, out of it. So there was a serious amount of work done in there already. Yep. You're still gonna always have to deal with the swamp up in the back. That's just the
yeah.
nature of that right there. What about tennis courts for Aquasic? Is that in his budget?
That would all be included in that. He didn't have it specified at 50,000. I don't believe it's in his budget.
It was in capital purchases last year, not capital.
Well, we haven't run that through yet, have we?
He has not done it as of yet, no.
Okay. Just to bring you up to speed on this one, man, I'll make this real quick. We had a large contingent of pickleball players show up here at a meeting and talk about making Aquasic a pickleball court and getting rid of tennis. I don't think it had much traction. Is that a fair assessment, John and Tracy?
Yeah, I think what caught my eye was a good part of the people that were here were from the plantation.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that, he's right. Majority of the people making the request of Rangeley to facilitate their individual pickleball needs were non-residents. Further investigation, which came out in the meeting, that they were already ousted from a private pickleball court up at Saddleback, at Saddleback Lake, that association up there, they booted them out of there. And then they refused to pay the fees at the nicest pickleball courts in the area, which is up at the rehab center, because it's too expensive. So I think that's where the traction really came to a screeching halt, is when, you know, it was identified there are a number of pickleball courts in the area, and to oust the tennis courts is just not gonna happen. Now, there could be lines painted to accommodate pickle as well as
Right,
tennis, but not exclusively to the pickleball world.
right.
You a
I think
pickleball
we-
player?
No, but I think they did Rangeley, so they were all, accommodated
Correct.
that.
Correct.
And then they schedule a time for people to play pickleball and stuff like that when it's public,
Yes, it really.
when it's a public tennis court.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, again, John's point to
So you do have to
non-residents,
replace that, right? Because that, I heard that tennis court is awful. in our
tennis
public.
court's in bad shape.
Yeah.
Correct, needs to be
One in
redone. In Aquasic, correct, yes. Yep.
Pickleball is a relatively new phenomenon, right?
Excuse me?
Pickleball is a relatively new sport, or has it been around for a long time?
Beats the shit out of me. Oh,
It's
excuse
been
me.
around
I
a
don't-
long
Been
time,
around,
it's
just
in-
recently.
in Rangeley picked up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's been a big issue since I've been around.
Does the town have its league?
Hmm?
Does the town?
No, there's
have
like a
its own team?
committee that comes in and they're like Pickleball, yeah.
They're very, yeah.
They're very serious about their pickleball.
Now, you play, don't you?
I do not.
Do you play?
Me? No, I'm in therapy up in those rooms watching them.
There's your descriptions that are in there.
They're very serious about it.
I used to play tennis, but I've never played pickleball.
I've got
Yeah, I don't know the first thing about it. I mean, I've watched them, of course, while I
construction,
get myself turned into a pretzel by Heather. And
town park,
All right, focus.
Yeah, that's good.
Cemetery.
Go to the cemetery.
you say close it?
Go to the,
We'll all be going to it at some
We're
point.
getting 2 more trash cans?
we are,
So that's all the numbers that I
Très
have.
bien.
two per year, yeah,
2 per year.
2 per year.
And what about the, how are we doing with the fencing?
We got permission to take it down this year, but it
Yeah.
didn't get done because of the weather.
Yeah.
So it's coming down, we need to really see what we can do with it.
Okay. And then all of our stones have been bleached and cleaned,
The front ones,
the front ones?
don't know if any others, I think they just worked on the front. That would be it. Tricia, answer, question?
Yeah, the ones that are clean look great.
Yeah.
They look great.
I know they fixed the, I don't know what you call it, the popper section. A lot of them were down over the banks and they really fixed those. I think the other thing they were trying to do something with is the trust building. That's there, the monument.
The
Broken
refurbished one?
windows, the furbish, yeah.
Yep.
There's broken windows that need to be fixed. Not sure how we can even get in, if there's a key somewhere to that.
Is that where Harry Furbridge is interned inside that building?
Yes.
Not really sure how to get in there. Somebody's gotta have
Somebody's
a
got the
key
key.
somewhere, right. Where, who knows, but
Gatekeeper.
right now the fence is our big
Yeah.
project.
That's a cast iron fence or something?
Yeah,
Nice iron fence that went all the way across.
yeah,
the selectmen approved
yes, we're
taking that
moving it,
down.
yeah. We're not getting rid of it,
Right.
we're gonna see what we can do with it.
Repurpose it?
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Were you also gonna take that garage building down? I thought I heard something about that. There's a little building right as soon as you go in off to the right there.
Yeah, the little garage where they keep all the,
No, they just
Shovels
fixed
in.
that, didn't they?
The cemetery maintenance building, yeah.
Didn't they just fix that?
Yeah.
They fixed it? Okay, there was
Yeah.
something about that, I couldn't quite remember.
Yeah, they just fixed
Oh, yeah, I thought so. No, we're not gonna
pretty
take
sure
that
that's
down. I thought they did, yeah, yeah,
Okay, maybe it was just he was telling me it needed repaired.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's it for now.
All right, so donations increased from what was voted on at town meeting, but decreased in overall request from last year. Is that because the town voted down a couple?
yes.
Okay, I was wondering what that meant.
What happened
There
again?
were two requests that the town voted no,
Okay,
so that's what that means.
all right.
They probably resubmitted them,
One of them didn't.
one of them did not, but one did, so. So there's more, what that says is the requests increased over what was voted on last year, but decreased in overall request from last year. That's because the town voted to reject a couple of them. Follow that logic? You don't look like you do.
Just to double check, there's no intent to change the process for this type of request, is there? And I'll lay out some groundwork here. I heard a group last year very vocal about having to go through this process, but they're nonprofit organizations, so they're used to having to jump through hoops to ask people for money. So asking them to do a petition is not that extreme of a request to get them to submit requests. So there's no plan to change the process by which we make them request the donation funds, right?
If I remember right, we had quite a discussion on this last year.
We did.
We did it at the beginning of the year. Tricia had brought it up again, because
Yeah.
it's more of a town clerk imposition in her office to verify the signatures, because the selectmen don't verify them. I mean, they see copies of them and whatnot, but it's just, it creates more work in the town clerk's office. But, so she had brought it up for her sake.
But the ultimate result was the selectmen voted to keep it the same way that we did.
Yes, exactly.
And that process is that someone from one of the organizations comes in, they make a request,
Yeah,
and it's,
fill out a form.
There's an application, a petition, if they want one.
okay.
And provide financials.
They have to circulate petitions, which is what one of the organizations was upset they had to continue to do, because they said it was an imposition on their volunteers. But my point was, you're a nonprofit organization, this is the smallest imposition you've gotta face to ask for money, when you look at the grand scheme of who else you ask for it from, because other organizations make you fill out a 20-page document, you've gotta give them.
We asked for financials.
We asked for your
They're
financials,
and then-
$1,000. We asked for their last year's budget stuff and.
So we're seeing their financials, and are we getting is the financial statement just something they generate on QuickBooks, or are we
It's
asking
theirs.
for
It's theirs.
audited?
It's what, however they do their, but we want to see last year's numbers. So some of them have submitted audits, some of them have submitted just with their, like you said, QuickBooks type
Yeah,
thing.
because I mean, I don't know if that's where you're headed, but I mean, I
Report.
think that we should be looking at an audited statement that obviously is
What you have in
legitimate.
your binder.
But then again, technically, it's not up to us, it's up to the voters that vote for it, because they each get a spot on the ballot where you say yes or no, whether or not, as a taxpayer, you wanna pay that for the donation.
These are broken out.
Yep.
So you can say yes to
Specifically.
one, no to.
I think I understand your point. Remember that some organizations are much larger
Uh-huh.
and have that capability to have it audited. Others are just big enough to have QuickBooks Pro, and
Right.
that's what they do,
If that,
if that. Some of them are on a cocktail napkin.
Yeah,
I'm being facetious,
No, I
but my
understand.
point being, Rangeley Region Health Center is audited because it's federally funded as well as state, as well as municipality, as well as plantations. One like the logging museum comes to Rangeley and maybe a few plantations, but there's very little, if any, federal dollars
Right.
associated with that.
yeah.
So they keep their expenses down. Answer your point.
Okay.
Next.
can I just ask a quick question? I'm just looking really quick to see on, for example, Public Works. Is that a typo where the salary reduces?
Wait a minute, you're back up at Public Works?
Yeah, we skipped down to donations and I was, anyways.
The salaries aren't done because we haven't done the
Increase.
increase or anything yet, because the public works is not just union employees. So we have
Right.
not done the increases yet for non-union, so you won't see an actual number, correct number there.
Okay, cause that, I mean, it just says $2,000 less, that's all I'm just saying. I didn't know that why we would decrease. Okay.
Earl's salary comes out of that line. The union, he's the non-union person.
Okay.
The rest of them are all the union. Keith used to be in there, but now he's in his own.
Yeah, now he gets his own category.
Public
But it just
service.
looked funny that it was
Yeah.
lower, but.
Capital purchases is down 164,000, still need to add a couple of things. I was just thinking, I gotta check with Keith, because that's where,
We got a dump truck issue. Is that in there?
that wouldn't be on, oh yeah, could be.
It's in there?
capital
Okay, thanks.
I can't remember if the actual number,
We got a $40,000 engine.
Yeah, that was the, I guess the
Well,
last.
you were here for that.
I was here for that.
I think it's
Yeah.
better if you take it out of the current year though.
But there's money in the reserve account to cover that,
In current year, yeah.
currently.
yeah, no, that number is not in there yet, because I think he's waiting for amounts for what
Correct.
the lease will be. So,
Right,
So is that where the paving of the tennis court would belong? The re-
So you won't see that in what you have in front of you, because that was from last fiscal year.
there's
But that would have been
money
in
already-
capital purchases, yes.
Capital purchases, okay, just wanna make sure we check in that.
Yep.
What that 164,000 is for, cause that's where we wanna put that could cost $60,000 to do it. So,
that tennis court,
yeah,
we'll be lucky if we get away at 60 grand.
I know.
Well, that much was
That's
budgeted.
the one in Twassick?
Correct,
Where is that tennis court? Oh, it's right there, where the RFA has the art show.
correct,
Okay,
yep.
okay. And what does that need? It just need to be resurfaced or
Yeah,
built?
it needs, the fencing needs to be addressed, the resurfacing needs to be addressed. And because of the type of court that it is, with that material they put down, it needs to all be reclaimed or taken out. I'm not sure if the reclaiming is the right word, and resurfaced. But whatever's coming up through to break it has got to be removed. Listen, Aquasic in that section, if you don't know or not familiar with the history of that, it's on a swamp. The entire area there is swampy. And you can see that as you drive around through Aquasic across the street from the tennis court. But anyways, and then they should be looking at the basketball court as well too, because that needs some, we're gonna need to get an estimate on what this is gonna be. I'll be lucky, I'll be surprised if $60,000 does it, but that's all we have, that's all we have.
So you think Trump will include that and just drain the swamp?
Yeah, maybe.
Couldn't resist me, sorry.
Let's not talk politics now. Get in
This is
trouble.
all politics.
Well, yes, but
Yep,
All right, then the capital reserve, decrease of 55,000. We last year had 355,000, this is 300. Might be able to whittle a little less than that, so,
Actually, the Economic Development Committee has not given me their numbers yet.
yeah.
There still should be a decrease, but they have not provided me any of their requests as of yet.
That's because, I can answer that, because I just attended the first meeting. So what is happening is that they're doing this big signage project to the Rangeley Heritage Trust, and they're looking for people to participate, so they were gonna be looking at doing, there's federal money that can be given, so they're not 100% sure. We were supposed to have a meeting, with, the committees that are all related to working on that signage, and unfortunately it was canceled. It was supposed to be last Wednesday, and we were gonna have a meeting after to be able to present you with a dollar amount. But it got canceled, so we're just waiting on them to give us an idea of like what the town arranged, what, I know we put money aside for that, but we have to also get ready to the plantations as well for the dollar amount.
We, last year put 50,000 in that account.
And I think that they were thinking that that's about the amount that it was gonna take for the signage.
20,
But with this new
20.
thing that came on about the Fed, they're not really 100% sure quite yet.
Okay. I had mentioned that, you know, we could certainly pay the down payment if the town voted to buy Depot Street. This year would have been 25,000, and then that would have been downtown and, you know, economic development, but that's not gonna happen, so.
Right.
that whole
There wasn't a
50
counter offer or anything, or no?
He's already got another buyer, he told me on the
For what, Depot Street?
He's already, yeah.
Have we looked into taking it by eminent domain?
The town wouldn't vote that, I don't know if they vote eminent domain. You know, that's a tough road to hoe.
It certainly is, but it would get us that lot at a better price.
I think anybody that wants to buy it is gonna be amazed to see that 50 feet right in the middle of it is town road.
Mhm.
And that road
Right.
goes right from Main Street.
It's no good to
All
anybody
the way,
but us.
yeah, all the way to the tree line, which you don't see. You think of the whole lot as what you see as the gravel area. There's a lot more land than that.
It's their driveway.
Well, the first part of
Yeah.
Depot Street, the second part of it continues on up, straight into that
The road was never discontinued,
Right.
Right.
It was never vacated.
and it's still on the books, therefore it's still a road. And we have not voted to not utilize it as a road. We'll back up a little bit here. You got $0 under airport reserve. Given what the FAA had just decided, I think that number's gotta go back to where it was before.
I know we took 25 out last year to put on the downtown because we thought we didn't need it.
Well, last year we thought we were flush for a long period of time to come, and now that's not the case. So,
Unless you allocate a certain amount of money from that fund to the airport, then that's,
Correct.
one way to deal with it too, but.
right?
I'm not the airport manager anymore.
You're the treasurer, I want your opinion.
I think that the selectmen should leave some money, well, besides what needs to be transferred over for our 5% for the projects that we had, they need to leave some money in there and then look at future.
Right. I mean, the
There are
selectmen haven't agreed to do anything with anything yet, we just got the findings very recently. And I don't wanna debate the merits of what the FAA has said and how it's gonna impact Rangeley, but what I am concerned with, if the political winds so desire, that could be zero balance, no time flat, and I'm not comfortable with that.
What are comfort stations, just to change the subject for a real quick second?
Yeah,
To the bathrooms.
The public restrooms? Got it.
It's just a fancy
Yep.
word for that.
so keep that one in your thought process as we go forward here, in terms of capital reserve for the airport.
I think to save on the budget that, I mean, I'm confident the selectmen would leave money in there for,
Oh, I am too,
Projects.
but all of a sudden, you know how all of a sudden the furnace breaks down and you gotta buy a new furnace, I'm just saying, that could be, we may find the need to get this road done, even though it causes Shelley heartburn, we may have to take some from here to get this project completed, so we don't know where we're gonna stand financially in terms of all that. Same thing with Allen Street.
Yeah,
We've got-
because the road's a mess, if the dirt, the rocks coming off the side and
You got it.
what, for the project that just happened?
it's going to the
That would have
dump.
nothing to do with the reserve, that has to do with the project itself, which is.
Right,
100%
that's what I'm
funded.
saying,
Yeah,
something
that's-
needs to be done with that.
That's another topic, but you're right, that's being addressed. Yeah,
I
thank you.
think we're still
What's
holding
in these
$1
reserves right
million
now?
from the contractor for retainage
You
until.
can have it for next time.
Thank you.
Right.
We do,
That's fine.
the balances.
All right, I cut a couple of things short, but we have a few minutes left. We got to the bottom of this one here. Anything that you need some, bring up the speed on, you wanna talk about, or tell me what you all would like to do. How are you feeling? Are you comfortable? You're brand new. Shelley's not brand new. She's been through this ad nauseum quite a
These
few
ladies
years,
aren't
so
brand
she knows what's going on.
No, I'm as comfortable as I can feel tonight, and
Okay,
I'm not intimidated, so.
yep,
Well, what I understand, we have to determine amongst ourselves how often we're gonna meet to, I guess, formulate the questions that we have, so, you know.
yep.
I
So
feel-
I'm gonna let you guys decide your particular schedule. We will schedule further meetings
Sure.
collectively, but I can speak for them in this. You know the phone number, their doors are open. If you have questions, you know, the rest of your board and us, don't hesitate.
And are we able to use, can we meet here in the conference room?
Yeah,
Yes.
but you have to check the schedule
Okay.
to make sure it's okay. But I would, I'm all for saving money. So when you meet with the departments, I think that would be good for us to be invited into those meetings. So we're not meeting with them, it's been crazy in the past where we meet with them, and then the budget committee would meet with individuals.
We don't do that, I'm the secretary, so we make it as easy as possible.
All right, cause
You guys will
it's
be
soon
in.
come and then just see what the whole overall.
We'll do the department heads collectively with the board and with you, so
Right.
that they don't have to be prepared for 74,000
Yeah.
questions. Because sometimes a question can be answered here, you don't need to do it again the next time through.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah.
What-
And if you get the answer that we're looking for as well, it's kind
Bingo.
of crazy.
What we will do differently this year that we didn't do last year is the donations. Those folks won't come and present to us individually, they'll do it at a public hearing. Because we have them come in and
That's
talk to
perfect,
us.
yes.
And then they had to drag themselves up there and sit through it all again to present to.
Because
public
they,
hearing.
honestly, they need the
So-
voters, so they should actually
So
be
they need
okay
to
to
talk
sign
to the
the
public hearing,
petitions.
it's a donation request, we're not gonna change that anyway. So that's just, that's just more effective.
Did I hear you right, you're gonna have separate budget committee meetings with the department heads and separate, you're gonna do it together?
Together.
Together.
Glad.
Together.
And then when we present, we'll have our separate meetings to present as a whole.
That's fine. But, yeah, we should have all the department with everybody doing the same thing.
One thing the selectmen need to think about too is some of those donation requests, I know one for a fact was late, and it was not a petitioned one. So, I mean, there are deadlines for a reason. I know there was a deadline last year that wasn't followed, but we need to decide whether we're gonna follow deadlines or not.
Deadlines and commitments.
We're gonna follow deadlines.
I'm all about rules.
Yep. Well, we're gonna follow deadlines. Remind me which one was late last year? Red Cross?
Library. Yeah, you
Jeez,
can't
so-
be hard and fast, that's the dilemma I was in last year.
Yeah.
They called me up after Tricia denied them because they didn't have enough signatures. They needed like 5 more. And I have to listen to them, I said, I'm not gonna not allow the town to vote on money for the library because of this. So, yeah, if you go get your signatures tomorrow, they said they could get them right away. And
Right.
so that, I mean, you gotta have exceptions for something like that. Now, yeah, maybe they had a lame excuse as to why they didn't have all their signatures, but
Right.
I didn't hear from them this year, so I imagine they brought them in on time.
Yeah, but I think it was, WRGY was late with.
Right, I remember
And their
that.
request is not a petitioned amount. It was, well, actually, they asked for $4,999, so they don't have to.
They
They didn't get theirs, did they?
Ah,
We still have to report people like that come in and try to
They
get
did,
cash.
WRGY didn't get their funding last year from us, did they?
I think they did, I don't know.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I'm pretty sure they did.
Yep.
I can assure you, I mean, everybody loves the library, right? How can you not love the library? But once you tell them, no, the door's closed, they'll be on time next year.
Well,
And
that's-
somebody
here's the thing,
within
if you're
the-
holding everybody else to the fire, if you're making everybody else show up by a deadline, and you're making everybody else follow a process, you can't pick and choose.
Yeah, I mean,
As a municipal government, you can't pick and choose. If there's a process in place and people are told to follow it, every last one of them have gotta follow it.
yeah, we file our taxes by a certain date. If we don't file them, we're late. And there's penalties.
There's consequences.
And interest, yeah.
Anything else?
I paid my share of those penalties and interest over the years.
Well, this is just too much fun for me.
Incidentally, you have some relatives in this area that are very close to New Orleans.
I have relatives?
No, let me start again. I didn't say that right. The founder of New Orleans, Gammon,
Oh, Wakefield.
yeah, Johnny Wakefield is grandson.
I volunteer with a woman at admissions because I work all the events.
Thank you. We're done.
Yeah. It's moved on to a
Thank
totally
you.
different conversation.
Adjourn.
Thanks for my binder.
Motion to adjourn.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry to cut you off, but talk with John probably
Yeah.
about the kids.
Yeah, there's no problem. And Celia